The next guy coming out runs civilizedcavemancooking.com. So if you like what he has to say, go to civilizedcavemancooking.com. He also has a best-selling book called The Paleo Kitchen. You can find him at home, eating bacon, and enjoying himself. So anyhow, please welcome to the stage, George Bryant.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
How's everybody doing? I haven't rehearsed my slides. I made them yesterday or 2 days ago. So this is so I have this habit I like to run back and forth, and they told me I have to stand still. So don't take it offensive that I'm not like coming over to talk to you. I want to, but they're going to yell at me. So how many of you is your first time at Paleo FX? Wow, welcome. Welcome. I wasn't here last year. I took a break, so it's good to be back. So thank you for everyone that's coming. Welcome to the party. So I've had quite a journey when it comes to paleo. I've kind of gone everywhere. I'm gonna hit into my slides in a minute. But I always like to start my presentation with a moment of truth. And this one makes me uncomfortable, so it might make you uncomfortable. So pretty much for the next 45 to 60 seconds, I'm going to tell you how I'm feeling right now. This normally makes the sweatiness go away, and then we're all friends, family, and we can all hug and share some bacon after. So 60 seconds starts now. So I'm incredibly humbled to be here. I am in great company. I walk around this place, and I remember 4 years ago when I was a blogger starting, and I thought I was special because I had an ego and wanted to cook, and no one knew who I was. And now I'm really grateful and humbled to be able to share my story, kind of what's come up for me. I'm so incredibly grateful for my fiance, Lindsay, over there, the gorgeous redhead. She is my rock. She makes all this possible. I'm actually going to cry. Thank you, baby. And thank you for everybody for taking the time out of your day to be here. My business partner, Abel, back there, the most incredible man, just released an awesome book called The Wild Diet. What is it? Everything's more fun when tigers are chasing you? Is that what you said? Awesome. Yeah, I'm actually a little nervous, to be honest with you. I'm a little nervous. I want to make sure that I'm going to provide the best value that I can, and everybody leaves here with something better than what they came with. And it's kind of a lot of pressure, but we'll see what happens, right? All right, my minute's up. Everybody knows me more now, right? I was like, this guy's weird, right? Thanks for coming, Josh. By the way, that amazing Josh right there lost 100 pounds in high school while writing a cookbook and teaching himself how to cook. Huh? Mine or his? Well, we can tell you his when my talk's done. We can talk about my cookbook right now. So a little bit about me. I'm going to breeze through this really quickly, but I want people to understand my backstory. So both my parents were addicts and alcoholics. A lot of abuse as a child. Social services came in. I ended up emancipating myself at 15. Lived on my own, worked 3 jobs, barely made it through high school. Joined the Marine Corps to run away, and I took off. I was sexually assaulted twice. Once when I was 9 years old, and once again when I was 13 years old, both times by babysitters. When I was 13, I was actually tied down and tortured. I'm shaking speaking about it. And we'll get to why I share this in a minute. I was bulimic for 12 years, even as a paleo blogger. I came into the paleo niche, and I was struggling like crazy. I've swung 100 pounds in each direction. I was 257 pounds at my heaviest. Now I'm about 170, and I had a horrible relationship with food. And it was thanks to this community and that man Abel back there and some drinks in Boston at 2 a.m., and I came out about my bulimia, and the world's never been the same since. I struggle a lot with post-traumatic stress disorder. Anyone familiar with what that is? So I did 3 combat deployments. I've personally witnessed 3 suicides and found them. I found multiple friends passed away. The last one was about a year ago. One of my Marines from Afghanistan. So it's something that I still struggle with every day. I spent 12 years in the Marine Corps, and it has a huge impact on my life. So I'm open about all of it. I share everything. I mean, there's no filters here. We can talk about everything, and we're going to get to why. Because then what happens? Great. All that stuff happened. I choose to relate to it however I'd like to. I taught myself how to cook. It was great. It helped me overcome my bulimia. I lost 100 pounds. I got a beautiful, beautiful wife out of it. She gets to be the end. I talk about her a lot because, she's amazing. I have an amazing family. All I ever wanted my entire life was a family. That's it. Nothing else really matters to me. There's nothing more important than having a grounded, loving, supportive, connected family. And I have that and our 10-year-old daughter, and I'm just humbled and grateful. Friendships, things like that. I did write a New York Times bestselling cookbook called The Paleo Kitchen. We launched an app, number 4 in the world? Abel and I, we launched an app. It went number 4 in the world. And the website's great. It allows me to connect with all of you. Thank you for coming again. And I was able to create all of that. The events themselves never changed, just how I related to it and what I was willing to push through allowed me to do that. So you may be wondering why I decided to share the most intimate details of my life with you. And this is another one of those vulnerable moments for me. It released me from my prison. I don't know, you may be able to relate to this, you may not. But holding on to secrets is like holding on to trash, and it eats at you every day. It's like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, and when you let it go, when you open up about it, I remember when I came out about my bulimia, I was scared. I wrote this post. I think I wrote it for a week, and I stared at it for 7 hours, and I'm like, oh, I got to hit post. No, I can't do it. I can't do it. And one of the most powerful and freeing things is being okay with who I am. One of the things we talk about all the time is that we are whole, perfect, and complete as who we are, as human beings, as people in this world, and none of our external circumstances define us. So I share everything because it gives me power over my circumstances, and it allows me to choose something different every day. I really want a clicker. So what I'm going to talk to you about is using food to create breakthrough results in your life. I made up a few quotes in here. Some of them I really like, so feel free to tweet them. The circumstances of life might never change, but how we relate to them can. No matter what, life is going to happen. It happens every day. I used to actually think when I deployed that somehow the world hit pause, and when I came back, everything would be the same. And then I came back, and people had kids, and they were married, and they were divorced, and they built a house, and no one even realized I was gone. Life happens. How we relate to them can change, but these are the rules. No guilt. You are not allowed to feel guilty with yourself. No shame, no fault, and no blame. Those are my 4 rules for everything we're going to talk about. There's enough stuff that happens in this world. Hey, Todd. Good. There's enough stuff that happens in this world that we get to spend our time being as nice as possible to ourselves. It starts within, and we get to treat ourselves how we want to be viewed in the world. So those are my rules for you. So why is food so important in all of this? Sharing my story, my life, and everything. Well, it keeps us alive. That would be the first thing. We do it 3 times a day. Some of us only do it 2 or 1 if you're intermittent fasting. But it gives us a tool to practice what we preach every day over and over and over again. So I'm going to ask a couple questions. So how many of you have tried different diets and ended up with the same results? The food didn't matter, did it? How many of you times have had a different job but ended up with the same boss? Yeah. Thanks for raising your hand, Terry. How many times have been in a different relationship but the breakup is always the same? Right? It's an interesting concept, and it's got nothing to do with the job, the food, or the relationship. It's got everything to do with how we see the world and how we relate to the world, how we show up. So why do I talk about food? Well, I say that how you relate to food is how you relate to everything in life. How many times a day do we break our word to ourselves when it comes to food? Like this morning, I'm like, oh, I'm going to eat breakfast. And then I'm like, oh, but I want my pants to fit when I go present later, and I can't eat that right now. Right? Or, oh, I'm going to work out today, but when the gym comes up, oh, I got to get the kids to soccer, I got to go to school, we got to do homework. We continually break our word to ourselves over and over and over again, every day. But yet we expect to create amazing results when it comes to business and relationships and diets and food and everything else. Great. Now that we see that, you're like, well, what do we do? That's my favorite part about this. We actually just get to eat more and eat better and learn how to create these amazing results in our life. And it may sound silly, But my theory is that if you make one small ritual or one small change when it comes to how you relate to food, that change is going to drip out everywhere in your life. If you make a commitment to me that when you go home tonight, that you're going to eat a healthy meal. I don't want you to commit to a whole 30, a whole 60. I see some people even doing whole 90s, which I think is insane. I want you to commit to one thing. And I just want to challenge you to keep your word to yourself. No matter what happens, we're all going to have the same 24 hours a day. That never changes. That's the constant. And we're always going to have the circumstances. We're always going to have the obstacles, the jobs, the kids, the 13-year-olds that write essays to mom how to feed them junk food, right? Thanks for sharing that story earlier. That was amazing. But it's always going to be there. And the only thing that's going to change is how we relate to it. So this is where it gets to be fun. So we're going to use food to create all these results in our life. What's possible? And you may be thinking like, well, this guy's crazy. He's telling me to eat bacon on a schedule, and then I'm going to get a raise at work. But if you think about it in theory, if I asked you, like, okay, so how's work? You're like, good, I show up on time. My boss thinks I'm great. And I'm like, great, how's your relationship? And they're like, oh, it's great too. And I'm like, great, how's your gym life? And they're like, oh, I work out, I do my best. And I'm like, okay. And people like to think that how they show up in different areas of their life is different. But we have no compartments. How we show up one place is how we show up everywhere. And if I was going to poll your 5 closest friends, I guarantee you the results would be shocking. Because I take a hard look at myself a lot, thanks to Lindsay's feedback and people like Abel who call me out on it all the time. Thank you for making me a better version of myself, both of you. But it's like, yeah, babe, I'm doing so good. I'm working so hard, but I don't want to eat healthy today. Like, I just want that chocolate bar. And then, of course, then I'm like, oh, but I got to do this post. And I'm like, I'll do it tomorrow. I just want to watch TV. But in my head, I tell myself that I'm working my butt off. I'm doing everything in my power, and I'm doing everything as I should be. And the truth is, people tell me differently, and I listen to them because I have a little disillusion about how I show up. So what's possible? We're going to use food to make more money, get a promotion, pursue your passion, have better sex, right? The things in paleo we talk about, poop and sex. Those are the 2 things that we always have. And I don't really like talking about poop because I got gluten last night, and this morning was a little rough. Whew. But what's possible is we get to create the results we want everywhere in our life. This is the key question. Does anyone have any idea how? Any guesses? I haven't made the next slides yet, so we're going to figure it out as we go. Number 1, learn from your choices. So you remember in the beginning I said the rules were no guilt, no shame, no fault, and no blame. And that's a hard one to wrap our minds around. We, as people, myself included, tend to go to, oh, look, I said I was going to do this, but I did this. I'm such a bad person. I failed again. How many of you have that negative self-talk? Does that come up anywhere? Yeah. It comes up for me all the time. All the time. And we are masters at beating ourselves up. It's almost like we could be paid to do it. We're so good at it. But what value do we get out of that? So, keeping those rules in mind, we learn from our choices. And it's really simple. Events in life are neutral. It's kind of a big concept, but when you look at the basic of it, how I view a car accident and how you view a car accident are 2 different things. Me personally, I'm just going to give you an example. If Jocelyn saw a car accident, she might be frightened and want to go help. When I see a car accident, I get taken back to Afghanistan where my truck blew up. And I have a panic attack. Completely different, but the event itself is the same. So how we relate to these and where the power comes from is that we get to choose this. We get to choose how we see things that happen in our life. I make it really simple. When you look at a situation, what worked, what didn't work, and what's missing that we can bring forth to create a different result. Great. I'm going to go on a Whole30. I started yesterday. I already failed because I had some dark chocolate over there. I have 2 options. I can beat myself and be like, look, I'm not good enough. I just can't do it again. Like, why do I even commit to this? Or, I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. I gave into my craving. Man, I only got 5 minutes? Whew. I gave into my craving. I chose to eat the chocolate, but why? What was underneath it? Well, I wasn't feeling good about myself. I was a little insecure. I was nervous coming over here to talk. What can I do differently next time? Well, this is where that vulnerability piece comes in. I'd be like, hey, babe, I really want to eat that chocolate right now because I'm nervous. Like, I'm scared that I'm not going to provide value. I'm intimidated by all the other speakers around here. And there's just no way I can do it. So if I just eat this, I'm going to feel better. And then for me, that takes me right back to binge eating and bulimia, which obviously is just a vicious cycle. So instead, I'm like, oh, okay. I was nervous. I ate chocolate. What can I do next time? Next time, I can speak it into the world and seize its power. You know, our brains are crazy. They make up some amazing stories that we like to believe, and we believe them. And we fight nail and tooth to believe them, too, because we don't ever like being told that we're wrong. Human beings are great about that. So we learn from our choices. Number 2, make small commitments. And this is really cliche, but it is so true. Because small commitments and small changes equal big results. When you're training for a marathon and you've never run before, you don't get off your couch and go run 26.2 miles. And if you do, then we have another conversation to be had, because that's a little psychotic. And just like I tell people transitioning to paleo, I think paleo is amazing. I eat rice, I eat butter, I eat not paleo sometimes. I pay for it. But I tell people that paleo is a framework, and when you transition into it, ease yourself into it and set yourself up to win. By making small commitments, you're giving yourself ammunition to prove your own story wrong. And you actually get to let it in and believe that you're good enough. You can make a small commitment to drink 8 glasses of water a day, and then you get to celebrate what happens. You get to give yourself credit for what you did do, forgive yourself for what you didn't do, and make a new commitment. Which brings me to step number 3, which is love yourself. And I will stand up here as a vulnerable man and share every deepest, darkest secret, because it's the only place that you get to be truly free, whole, and complete as a human being. I have no problem talking about my sexual abuse or my post-traumatic stress disorder or the fact that I was just hospitalized in November for my post-traumatic stress disorder and depression. Because it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to be vulnerable. It does not decrease my value as a human being or what I can offer this world. The key is that I get to love myself and move forward and continue that forgiveness path and celebrate every win. And that's how we create results in life. These are actually real-world examples that happened in our living room 2 days ago. I was asking Lindsay's advice. I'm like, babe, I just can't think of how to phrase this. How do we celebrate every win? And she looked at me straight in the eye and she said, I cooked carrots today. I'm a badass carrot cooker. And I'm like, that's really simple. But that's a perfect example. Because we can spend 18 hours a day creating results in our life. We will remember the one thing that we didn't do right. And we will focus on it. And what good does that do any of us? So I challenge you leaving here today, and I love to hear this spoken out loud as you run around. Be like, oh my God, I just ate dark chocolate. I'm a badass dark chocolate eater. You know, hashtag it hugs and bacon and call it a day. But number 2, maybe if you lay in bed all day, you don't want to do anything, you want to take the day off, maybe all you do is shower. Great. You still did something different, and you still did something that you accomplished. Celebrate it. I showered today, I smell like roses. Gosh, I'm sexy. May not sound good, but, you know, we can deal with it. So never take anything personally, love yourself, and celebrate every win. And I made this quote up. I've heard it a few different ways, but you can be the tastiest bacon in the world, and there's always going to be someone who doesn't like bacon. Remember that has nothing to do with you. Everything that happens outside of you is nothing to do with you. That's insecurities being projected. That's their own story. Focus inward and love yourself, and everything will change. These are a couple quotes I found. One of them was an Instagram proverb. That's what we'll call it, because I have no idea who said it. Believe you deserve it, and the universe will serve it. And then Louise Hayes, if you're not familiar with her, I recommend everybody get familiar because she's amazing. You've been criticizing yourself for years and it hasn't worked. Try approving of yourself and see what happens. So really simply, all I want everyone here to do today when you leave is just take a minute for yourself. Take a moment in time and acknowledge yourself for what you've done. Acknowledge yourself for being here and expanding your knowledge of paleo. Acknowledge yourself for making the trip here, for eating good, for getting out of bed. Acknowledge yourself for everything that you put into place to make this happen. Reward yourself and love yourself. And I'm taking into your question time. That's okay. And moving forward, just try to implement one thing at a time. Make it gentle, be kind, and be loving to yourself, and everything will change. Questions? They're like, this guy is nuts. Yes, sir. Oh, I got to stand in the middle of the stage.
I think this is a great message for kids. Do you speak to children about this?
I do, whenever possible. I speak to everybody about this because you meet me at the airport, in the grocery store, whether you want it or not, I'm going to bring it. I get told that sometimes. But yes, I think it's we have a 10-year-old at home, and we talk a lot about honesty and, just being open. And Lindsay and I actually were listening to a talk on the way to the airport from a psychologist, and he had his daughter played soccer, and she runs over to the side of the field and is like, Dad, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not the best player, and some of us want to be like, no, you're the best. And he's like, you're right, you're not. And he's like, what's it take to be the best? And what he does is he provides an honest message for his daughter on how to view herself. She gets an honest piece of advice and viewpoint on what she can do differently to be better. And she's like, Dad, I don't think I want to play soccer anymore. That's too much work. But instead of us getting these cognitive distortions where everything has to be perfect and it has to look a certain way and we have to be a certain way, we just get to be real with who we are. That's the message here. It's like, be okay being you, because you is beautiful. The details are in the mess, and I love getting messy, if you can't tell. So, thank you for your question. Anyone else? I didn't bring any bacon. I apologize. This is great. Do I get like 2 more minutes just to talk? Because I could stay up here for like 3 hours. Yes, ma'am.
Did you have any particular steps on how to get rid of the guilt and the shame and the, because you believe it in your mind, but how do you get it to be who you are?
Totally. That's an amazing question. Her question was, did I have any steps to get rid of the guilt, the shame? Because it's such a powerful message in our brain. For me, what worked for me was being extremely ripped open and raw, like transparent. You can ask Abel to this one. Like, he'll go 2 months without calling me. He'll call me, and he'll be like, oh, I'm not calling him for another 2 months. I can't handle this again. But he's like, how you doing? And, most people are like, oh, I'm great. And I'm like, oh, dude, this sucks. I'm like, oh, I was crying last night. I beat myself up. I feel like I'm not being a good husband to Lindsay. Like, I messed up this recipe. I didn't post this. And he's like, okay, great. And it just, speaking it into the world is where it neutralizes your story. For example, the first time I spoke about my sexual abuse, I had wanted to talk about it for years. Lindsay was the first person to ever know. And I made up stories in my head on what people would think about me. I can't say this, they're going to judge me. I can't talk about this because I'm a man. Or at the time, because I'm a Marine and I'm covered with tattoos and I'm supposed to look a certain way. So speaking it into the world neutralized all its power, because everyone's like, oh my God, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing. And I'm like, wait, you don't hate me? You don't judge me? Of course they don't. My brain was telling me that it did. So I always find power in sharing with someone close to me, or perfect strangers if you're at a coffee shop. Thank you for your question. We got time for one more? 2 more? 1 more? Any more? Everyone's like, I don't want to talk to this guy. He's going to ask about my childhood. Oh, yes, right there. I think I heard your question. Do I talk to Marines?
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, I just started working with the Transition Assistant Program at Marine Corps Base Miramar in Pendleton. They approached me. Lindsay just typed this amazing post for me, 26 things you didn't know about me. Never expected that thing to go viral. But apparently people like to know every little detail about my life. And they approached me, and they asked me to come speak to wounded warriors, transitioning Marines, and other Marines that are thinking about getting out. So we've been working with them. I'm obviously going to do it completely free, and it'll be great because I have the relationship piece of, because there's still a lot of stuff that I struggle with. I just want everyone to know, and thank you, I know I'm out of time. I appreciate everyone coming, but I just want to be transparent that I stand up here and I talk a big game, and I try every day to live this game, and it's a challenge. It takes a lot to take yourself on. None of us like being wrong. None of us like not feeling comfortable. And it's a big challenge. But the results that you can have in your life are amazing when you're willing to dig in and get messy and take yourself on. So I just want to acknowledge everybody that's coming and that is here and that has listened to me bump my gums for 22 minutes since I'm 2 minutes over. And anybody wants to talk, anyone wants to share, anyone wants advice, I am doing a book signing at 4 o'clock right there at Victory Belt, but I would love to talk to you. Like, any questions, anything that you have, anything I can do to provide value, just let me know, and I would love to talk to you, and thank you for your question. Am I good? And that's all, folks.